Well, thanks everybody for taking the time out of your day. I think you all know who I am. My name's Andy. I'll be your moderator today. The whole idea here is that we're trying to understand a little bit about your perspectives in terms of working from home. But basically just want to go through, what you found that works and what's really the benefits and kind of the drawbacks, the opposite side of that, and what you've kind of done to mitigate any of the issues that you find to be less than desirable about working from home. My name is Andy Romano. I'm a senior research director here at Zeldis. I've been in the industry for almost 13 years and with Zeldis for a little over 10 years of that time. My responsibilities are being basically all of research from design through analysis and reporting. I work about equally on qual and quant. So I'd like to start here with a little poll. We're going to try some of the functionality out here. But the idea here, I just want to get a sense of how everybody feels working from home has been, just to get a kind of a baseline for our discussion. So I think Francine is going to go ahead and we're going to pull up a poll on the screen here, just to kind of go through this. Where you're going to tell me how productive you feel working from home has been using the 7-point scale compared to working in the office. So 7 would be much more productive at home, 1 would be much more productive in the office, 4 right in the middle of the scale would be equally productive at each, or you can pick any other number in between. So go ahead and make your selections whenever you get a moment. And yeah, just raise your hands if you're finished, so I know that you're all done. Okay, got everybody. So I can see who kind of made each response here. So kind of to that end, Jeff, you picked a 6. That's really close to more productive at home. Why do you feel that way?
So there's more time to work. I start earlier, end about the same time, but I start way earlier. So that's just in terms of just sheer hours. And then there are just fewer interruptions. So in terms of having big chunks of time to work on things, and when I have report writing, that's when I need big chunks of time. Apart from report writing, it's pretty easy to shift and work on multiple things at the same time. But lately, I've been doing a lot of report writing, and that's really been handy to have those chunks of time.
That makes sense. Yeah, we're going to dive into some of that a little bit later, but that's really helpful to get a baseline. So just by show of hands, who has a dedicated workspace at home? I feel like that's something that's interesting to note. So everybody but Christina. Okay. For the next piece, just again kind of level setting here in terms of understanding where everybody's at kind of a high level in terms of their experience working from home. I'm going to direct our attention again to the center here, and we're going to pull up an image deck. So a handful of different images here that I want you to just think about in kind of a little bit of an abstract way, and pick which one best characterizes your experiences working from home. Again, I know it's kind of a little bit outside the box, so this is kind of like a Rorschach test. There are no right or wrong answers, but just whatever one kind of strikes your fancy, and then we're going to talk about a few of them and find out why. But the way that you're going to actually select these is that you're going to go ahead and add your name next to or on top of, kind of superimpose them, the images themselves. So we'll see that kind of the layout, and then you'll be able to type right on top of that. So yeah, you're thinking about here just kind of which one of these best characterizes your experiences working from home, your kind of relationship to working from home directly contrasted with being in the office. So kind of, keeping that all in mind as you pick that. It's interesting. So we don't have anyone picking the same image. That's really cool. All right, so let's start with Bob down in the lower left, the kind of stopwatch. Bob, why did you choose image number 10 to represent your work at home experience?
Just because there's a little more flexibility in time, whether if you start a little earlier, working a little later, what have you, not having a commute when you're working at home. I just feel like the flexibility in time mostly, I think, is what I appreciate from working from home. It's the biggest probably difference versus the office.
Makes sense to me. And Christina, you chose image number 5. What about number 5 felt like working from home to you?
So as we touched on before, I don't have a designated office space. And I also have a couple other family members that work in the same household as I do, and we're all on calls all the time, and we're all trying to balance our workloads and this sort of work-life balance that we're trying to achieve. So it feels like working at home, sometimes I need a little bit of a push. It's kind of that uphill battle that I see in that picture, so you just kind of need to work a little bit harder to get your jobs done.
I had everyone do some homework, and thank you all for doing that. You did a wonderful job. And these are the results of that homework. As we were going through, I asked you for the top benefits of working from home, and this is kind of where everything fell out. I kind of netted a few things that were kind of saying the same thing, but the top one, which almost everyone said, time commuting becomes free time, or time that you can use for other things. Spend more time with your family, your pets, hobbies, things like that. Flexibility was important to a lot of folks, not strictly a 9-to-5 schedule, so you're able to complete more work, kind of like Jeff was just saying, that it can start right when you get up. You don't have to worry about that commute. You're already at your office, and you can get stuff done in the hours that, if you work well in the late afternoon to early evening, you don't have to worry about leaving the office and vice versa. Then utility, kind of you're at home, so things like, waiting for the cable guy, switching up your laundry, grabbing a workout like Rose was saying, spending time with your pets on break, those sort of things were important. And then, of course, kind of reduced costs associated with that. Half of you mentioned, things like gas, buying clothes for different outfits going to work, as opposed to kind of being in your sweats like I usually am. Having lunches out, those sort of things. So these were kind of the top list of benefits here. Let's start with the top. Anybody feel strongly want to jump in on the time commuting becoming free time, having more time for other things that you want to do, kind of extracurricular?
Yeah, I'll jump in. And kind of what Jeff was saying before, I had not an incredibly long commute, but it's probably about 45 minutes each way. So to get an hour and a half of your day back, every day, that really does add up.
A slim majority of the six of us had said that flexibility was important, kind of not strictly 9 to 5. We kind of were leading into it with that idea of the commute kind of breaking things off. Does somebody else want to speak to that? Maybe Monique?
Yeah, there is working from home. I still definitely keep the same standard scheduled hours. But there's plenty of time when, especially when the kids were here on spring break, that I was able to take a little bit longer of a lunch break and sit and hang out with them, and knowing that it was no big deal if I had to work a little bit later because it's just going to another room. So having that is nice, and for me it helps to allow me flexibility to keep kind of the vibe of my work day kind of in check.
Gotcha. Okay. How about utility? So, the idea of, just being able to switch up your laundry or do something that you would be able to do at home, set up dinner, things like that. What about that is, why is that an advantage? What about that makes working from home more more advantageous than being at the office? Maybe try Rose on this one?
Oh, it's huge. You literally can be in two places at once. You're at work and you're at home. So when I'm in the office, I can't have my dryer running or something in the crock pot. Well, I could, but I wouldn't. Or, I can't be letting my dog in and out and things like that. Whereas at home, I can really do all of those things and really have absolutely no negative impact on my productivity or my work.
So what I want to do here is just kind of set up the flip side of this. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the drawbacks of working from home. Just feel free to throw this out. We're going to build a list together and kind of add these in and then see kind of what we think about it. So feel free to throw them out at me. If you want to start, maybe Jeff.
The blur, I think the lines between work and home start to blur. So, making yourself stop. I think there was always a trigger of, I better beat the rush hour, or I better get commuting. And now, like, there's extra time to just keep going until somebody says, hey, are you going to have dinner with us or not?
Yeah. The time to go to sleep yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Anybody else? Ideas and drawbacks?
I would say kind of less collaboration with colleagues. Like, you just can't pop into somebody's office and, like, talk something over. So, I mean, you're still able to do that, but I think it's more of an effort to do that.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Anybody else? Monique, what do you think?
Fewer opportunities to make those like personal social connections with your colleagues. I think to go back to what Bob said, it takes more effort. It feels a little less organic than just walking by somebody's office, going to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee, and you just pop in and say, hey, how you doing? And, you have to actually, like, the thought has to pop into your head, or you have to make a conscious effort to do that.
Gotcha. Good point. Anybody else? Maybe Christina, what do you think might be a drawback of working from home?
Personally, for me, it's that dedicated office space. I'm kind of all over the place with my work, everywhere in my little nook of my house that I have available. So when I'm able to go into the office, I can kind of shut the door and focus harder and work more efficiently, for me at least, rather than having those distractions kind of flow about my house.
Okay. Rose, Colleen, anything to add here? Any other drawbacks that aren't on the list already that you want to add?
I would add, for me, it takes, and I've gotten better at this over time, but a lot of discipline to tune out the household distractions. You can all of a sudden be like, whoops, I've been doing laundry for 45 minutes, or, whatever. So you have to be really, strict so that you don't find yourself working at 10 p.m. every night. You have to be able to focus on work.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a great one. And I think it's interesting here how a few of these are popping up on both lists. So, the idea that the blurred lines between home and work life, like, yeah, I can start my day as early as I want. I can go as late as I want, but having my office at home means that my office is at home. Being able to make that separation and kind of, having those, the ability to switch up your laundry or set up the crock pot can turn into, a bigger distraction. So being able to have the discipline to turn that off, that's really good. Anything else on this list that would be a major drawback for working at home?
One challenge that I've had has been, and this has been, since before working from home, is my commute used to be the way I prepped to interact with folks at work, kind of wake up, because I am not a morning person. And not so much now, but really the drive home was the way that I let go of the day. And so even having I work 2 miles from the office now, so my commute is nothing. And it takes a lot more effort to like cram that decompression time in a 5-minute commute versus the 15 to 20-minute commute that I had before. Now, if I had, like you guys, 45 minutes to an hour commute, that might be a little too much. I don't necessarily need that much decompression time, but yeah, being at home and working is making that even more challenging.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to pull these in the order that we took them down, and we're going to talk about these. We're going to vote on them, see who agrees with each of them, and then we're going to vote on, which one we think is the biggest drawback. So let me just take a second to pull them in. All right. Okay. So let's start with the top one, blurring the lines between home and work life. who agrees, again, kind of, let's use a show of hands, that seems to be working pretty well, that this is a drawback to working at home? Hold your hands right in front of your face so I can see them. 1, Monique, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Okay? And less collaboration. So those office pop-ins to kind of talk about work as opposed to the social connections. Who feels that that is a major drawback to working from home? Raise your hands. 1 for Christina, Bob, Colleen. So 3. Okay. Then fewer opportunities for social connections. How do we feel about that one there? Rose, Monique, Jeff. So 3 again. Okay. Dedicated office space. So not necessarily just that seems to be Christina's situation, but I also want to just be kind of the everyday distractions, be able to focus in on work, but kind of that's different than tuning out the household distractions. Those two feel kind of related, but more so just, I guess it's just the overall, like the noise and the hubbub in your house as opposed to something that you choose to do. Does that distinction make sense for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for just the general, the general office distractions that you would have at home, who agrees with that one there that Christina brought up? Okay, so there's 4 there. And then kind of the other side of that, having the discipline to tune out the things that you want to do or, limit them in a way that is not kind of derailing your day. Who agrees with that one? Okay, it looks like we have 2 there. And then finally, losing personal time, the kind of serenity of your commute, whatever that looks like. Who agrees with that? Rose, Monique, Christina. Okay, so 3 there. That's interesting. All right. Let me just take a moment to take a screenshot of that on my end. All right, and then let's go through and vote on our top. I'm going to go through again. And I'll just go person by person. Rose, if I were to ask you what your top drawback from working at home, based off of the list that we built, would be, which one would you vote for as the top drawback?
The discipline, household distractions. I have a lot of them. So.
Okay. Okay. And then Monique, which one would be your top drawback?
Blurred lines between home and work life.
Got it. Back. Jeff?
I think the same one, blurred lines.
Okay. Bob?
The less collaboration.
Got it. And Christina?
Blurred lines as well.
Got it. And finally, Colleen.
I think the discipline one, too.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about these 3. We'll start with blurred lines between home and work life. We've all spent some time working from home. What kind of fail safes have we put in place? Any workarounds or strategies to help, if not eliminate, at least mitigate those sort of issues? Feel free to jump in, whoever wants. You can raise your hand. Bob, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it was a drawback because I've worked at home in the past as well, and I think initially it's a big adjustment because like working from home. I think to me the mindset was I don't think of it as working from home. I'm just working. It's my job. This is where I work. It's not necessarily from home. So you just got to like maintain a schedule as best you can. I think Jeff mentioned that it's easy to kind of just keep going because you don't have to drive home or whatever. It's just like the one more thing. I think setting those limits especially if it's something you do consistently. If you work at home like 1 day a week, it might be a little harder to do that, but if it's something you do consistently, you really need to set that up so it doesn't bleed into your life. You just need to think of it as working, to me at least, not just working at home.
How about the idea of less collaboration, being able to pop into somebody's office and say, hey, I've got a situation that I could use your help troubleshooting. Anybody have any ideas of how to make that a little bit more accessible, a similar type of thing while working at home? So discipline to tune out household distractions. Any strategies for making that better? Rose, maybe we can start with you on this one.
I kind of will echo some of the things that Christina was saying earlier. I've learned to be very strict about, all right, I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing housework or whatever, and then that's it. I can get back to that when I'm done my work. I've learned the hard way of thinking oh, let me just keep doing more and then I pay for it later because why didn't I do my work? The housework can wait. So I just try to set out blocks of time. And I will say another one thing Jeff said that I agree with, and it's a big strategy actually for me, is getting up early, starting the work a bit earlier than you need to. I battle if I get started with my work, I have an easier time not getting wrapped up in the household work. I get some momentum going in and it's easier. Whereas the opposite is true. If I get started on my household distractions, it's hard to break away. So get up, start early, and put limits on the amount of time, clear cut down 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever, on how long I'm going to spend on household things.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about you, Colleen? You're nodding your head. What do you think about what Rose said or some of your strategies?
It's a work in progress for me, so I'm learning as I go. I have started this week kind of just shutting the doors because I do have a dedicated space, and that kind of helps me. It keeps my mind from floating away, if that makes sense. Like the physical translates to mental in a way. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I know we stayed over a little bit here, but I think we are all set. I think we got what we needed.